down to this. I have 2 points to hit, one major and one minor. I'm going to hit the minor point first. Somebody posting on one of my videos where I was talking about Polycarp's Trinitarianism, and they had said, and part of the argument is that his student Irenaeus, it was an avowed, explicit Trinitarian, and I said, and he learned this from Polycarp. And this person had said, no, Irenaeus, he was influenced more by Justin Martyr and by Plato than by Polycarp. Well, I just want to read you a brief account of how Irenaeus regarded Polycarp and his teachings. And you can tell me whether or not this is the kind that a discourse like this, is this a person who would just arrogantly cast aside his master's teachings and think, I think Justin Martyr has it right, or I think Plato has it right about the nature of God. You tell me. Well, here it is. I can speak even of the place in which the blessed Polycarp sat in dispute. This is talking about when he was a kid and would hear Polycarp. How he came in and went out, the character of his life, the appearance of his body, the discourses which he made to people, how he reported his intercourse with John and others who had seen the Lord, how he remembered their words and what there were the things concerning the Lord which he had heard from them, and about their miracles and about their teaching, and how Polycarp had received from them the eyewitness of the word of life, and reported all things in agreement with the Scriptures. I listened eagerly then to these things through the mercy of God which was given to me, made notes of them, not on paper, but in my heart, and ever by the grace of God do I truly ruminate on them, and I can bear witness before God that if the blessed and apostolic presbyter heard anything of this kind, he would have cried out, shut his ears, and said according to his custom, O good God, to what time hast thou preserved me that I should endure this? He's talking, I believe this is, Irenaeus is talking to a heretic, and if Polycarp was hearing some of this junk, he would say, you've got to be kidding me. But anyway, he said he made notes of Polycarp's teaching, not on paper, but in his heart, and ever by the grace of God does he still truly ruminate on them. This is not a guy who would arrogantly cast aside Polycarp's apostolic teaching that he got from John and say, Justin Martyr's a Trinitarian. I like him. I like the way he's saying things better. No. If Justin's teachings didn't stack up to Polycarp's, Justin's teachings would have been out the door. Thank you very much. Bottom line, Polycarp was a Trinitarian, and it's folly to take a guy who learned from the apostles, and he died as a martyr for the faith, and he was a champion of orthodoxy, to say that he was a wolf in sheep's clothing. That is sheer idiocy. And not only that, it's arrogant to say, well, Polycarp must have misunderstood what John was saying. I don't know. You have the info. Do with it what you like. The big point I'm here to hit in the last 7 minutes of this video is I hear a charge very frequently hurled down, with all the blood the Trinitarian doctrine has on its hands, in squelching opposition, could it possibly be of God? Well, I want to examine this. This is little more than an appeal to emotion. I mean, it just is. I'm a Baptist, and it's not like I discuss the merits of pedobaptism versus credo baptism with people. That's a tertiary issue, really not worth spending time on. But I would not say to a Presbyterian, because Baptists back in the day got persecuted by Catholics and Protestants alike. I wouldn't say to them, do you realize how much blood the doctrine of pedobaptism has on its hands? Could that possibly come from God? Or, being a Protestant, I don't say to a Roman Catholic, you realize how much blood your church has on its hands? Could it possibly be God's church? All the Protestants you've persecuted throughout the... No. I mean, if I'm going to talk about pedobaptism to somebody, I'd look at the scriptural evidences for it. If I was going to, when I engage Catholics, I engage them on scripture and also on, church history. Are some of their doctrines all that ancient? Are they necessarily apostolic? I certainly don't play upon emotion. Somebody else hears an emotionally charged argument like that, they just turn off. I can just tell you. So the real question is, this argument about the blood guilt of Trinitarianism, is this an argument that non-Trinitarians even in fact deserve to make? Because let's face it, if there was a time that the idea that Jesus is not God was in the majority, and even the higher ups in government believed it, and non-Trinitarians persecuted the daylights out of people who believed Jesus was God, then they're pointing the finger at us, and three are pointing right back at them. So was there ever such a time? Well, yeah, there was a time when Arians ruled the roost from about 335 through 375, and did they persecute people who believed Jesus Christ was God? They kinda did! And I want to read where much of this persecution is recorded by my boy, Athanasius. I love Athanasius. He is just about my favorite post-biblical Christian. I look forward to seeing Athanasius in heaven. He, in the midst of being bounced out of the empire 5 times, or at least 4 or 5 times, being treated horribly. Everybody else was denying Jesus Christ was God at this point. He held to it. He stuck to it. It's a shame he didn't live to see his justification. The madness of Arianism wore off, and people began with confessing again that Jesus Christ was God. So he recorded some stuff. It's called The History of the Arians. It's 9 chapters broken into several sections each. I just want to hit some big points. Chapter 1, Section 4, there was Eustathius, a bishop of Antioch, a confessor sound of the faith. This man was very zealous for the truth, hated the Arian heresy, and would not receive those who adopted its tenets. Goes on, they invented a charge before Emperor Constantine, so when Constantine was an Arian towards the end of his life, charge invented against him that he insulted Constantine's mother. Immediately he's driven into banishment, with several presbyters and deacons with him. Section 5, did they stop there? No, for Eutropius, who was bishop of Adrianople, good man, excellent in all respects, because he convicted Eusebius, who was an Arian, advised them who came that way not to comply to his impious dictates, suffered the same treatment as Eustathius, and was cast out of his city and his church. Moving on, Section 7, this was really classy. Paul of Constantinople. Paul was banished too, and then, banished numerous times. In the 4th time, he was banished to Caucasus near Cappadocia, near the deserts of Mount Tarsus, where, as those who were with him have declared, he died by strangulation at their hands. And yet, the men who never speak the truth, though guilty of this, were not ashamed to, after his death, to invent another story saying that he died of an illness. Real nice there. Yep, the hits keep on coming, though. Let's see. Oh, this is, what is this? Part 2, Section 13. Cruelties of Gregory at Alexandria. I believe this was a government guy who came in. Wherefore he became in his folly a murderer and executioner, injurious, crafty, and profane, and a word, an enemy of Christ. He so cruelly persecuted the bishop's aunt that even when she died, he would not suffer her to be buried. And this would have been her lot. She would have been cast away without a burial had they not attended on the corpse and carried her out as one of their own kindred. Thus in these things he showed his profane temper. And again, when the widows and other mendicants had received alms, he commanded what had given them be seized, and the vessels which they carried their oil and wine to be broken, that he might not only show impiety by robbery, but in his deeds dishonor the Lord. One more little piece. I got about 50 seconds to go. This is Section 7, Chapter 7, Section 56. The great church pillaged. They went into the church in Alexandria with young men, and let's see, they seized upon the seats, the throne, the table which was of wood, the curtains of the church, whatever else they were able, carrying them out, and burnt them before the doors of the great street, and cast frankincense upon the flame. You can read the whole thing in Athanasius' The History of the Arians. Arians did hideous things to Trinitarians, so they need not point, non-Trinitarians need not point the finger at us, bottom line.